Welcome back to Too Much Future, the show where we play through the Fallout games and we talk about this is episode 51. We are playing New Vegas still. We're playing Old World Blues, the third piece of expansion, downloadable content. What are they called?
They're called add-ons now, I think.
Add-ons. The third add-on for Fallout New Vegas. I'm Cameron, and with me as always my co-host Michael.
Mm-hmm. That's me. I'm Michael.
There he is. And we're doing it. We're clipping right on through these things. We only have one more left to go after this. It's pretty astounding. We've been playing Fallout New Vegas for what seems like a long time.
Yeah, it does seem like a long time, although I think in retrospect it's not been much longer, or it's been just as long as any of the others.
Is that true? I'm going to look live, right? I mean, I believe you. I have no reason not to believe you, but I am curious about that.
With the exception of, I think, Fallout 1, which, if I recall correctly, was like only 8 or 9 episodes. It was quite brief.
Let's see here. Okay, so Fallout 1, 7 episodes. Fallout 2 is... Okay, 11 episodes for Fallout 2. Fallout 3, 17 episodes. Wow. That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, it is.
And then this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This is our 15th episode. The next episode will be our 16th episode. One fewer episodes than Fallout 3.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I wonder what's up with that. I wonder why it feels like we've been playing Fallout New Vegas for eternity.
Well, we also had, like, the other thing that's sort of notable about New Vegas is that we had, like, hour-and-a-half long episodes more frequently than we have before because of the ways that the quests hook together.
That's true. We have. So maybe, I wonder about my play time. I'm doing a little bit of, just some live data analysis here.
Mm-hmm. This is the new thing. People are tired of infographics. They want descriptions of numbers and statistics.
Fallout 3, I'm right above 31 hours. Fallout New Vegas so far, I'm at 35 hours. So I have been playing it longer. Let me break out that graph. It's just like it's just an arrow that goes up at a 45 degree angle. Fallout playtime. Okay. Cool. Neat. What's going on in this one?
So this is, big picture. Old World Blues is interesting because in terms of design philosophy, what they are doing here is trying to recreate the open world gaming experience within the single DLC, which I think is it's a noble endeavor. And I guess they're successful, actually, right? In sort of a very frank way. Like, they do it. There's an open world here and a bunch of, like, stuff hidden in it and, like, little quests you can do. And then there's just the barest wisp of a plot, a little spider's web of a plot draped over the whole thing. And yeah, I mean that was kind of my sense of it. I don't know if you had a different one, Cameron.
That there was a barest glimmer of a plot?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I accept it.
Okay. So I don't know. It's mad scientist stuff. It's 1950s B movies. It's trying to, weirdly enough, in the same way that the first add-on, whatever the hell that was called, Dead Money, in the same way that seemed to echo Operation Anchorage by saying, okay, here is the game engine that we have. What are sort of the things that we can introduce to change the player's default play style? In the same way that those seem to be echoing each other in terms of design. And then actually, weirdly enough, I guess you could say that, like, Honest Hearts and what the hell was the other one? Broken Steel were sort of echoes of each other because they were about, like, expanding on lore, right? Crunchy faction lore in a way. Not so crunchy in Broken Steel. Anyway, this one is echoing both kind of Fallout 3's Point Lookout with the, like, this is the sort of horror B movie type thing, plus the Mothership Zeta DLC that was about sort of the wacky science fiction stuff in a fairly thin way. So how this works for Lucky Nell is I'm apparently picking up some sort of transmission on my Pip-Boy, as I always am. I don't know what it is because the DLC notification came up hours and hours and hours ago, and I cannot see it again. But it sends you to a drive-in.
Yeah, about 36 or so hours ago.
Yeah. So it sends you to a drive-in where there's like I guess it's a satellite that has crashed in front of a drive-in movie theater screen, and the satellite is doing something. It's like whirring and clicking, and if you try to do anything with it, it tells you that the midnight feature hasn't started yet, so you have to wait until midnight. And then it'll start projecting a creepy like eye up on the screen. And then when you touch it again, then it's like, hey, you're getting ready to start the Old World Blues DLC. Are you sure about this?
And it's really funny that the kind of previous responses to these DLCs are like baked into that little screen. Because it's like, hey, you'll be able to go there again if you leave, by the way. Because the Sierra Madre, right? Once you left, you couldn't go back, right? Or there was some weirdness involved in that. And it was like, you can carry things with you there as well. We're not going to make you leave all your shit here like we have for all the other ones. So I thought that was very funny, the way that there's a little bit of expectation stuff here. Did you do any reading about the development of it or anything like that?
I couldn't find as much about this one for some reason. There was like, so most of the time for the previous two, especially like Avalone had a big postmortem about Dead Money, and then Joshua Sawyer had a whole bunch of stuff from like Formspring and from his Tumblr, and also his posts on the Something Awful forums that had been collated. Weirdly enough, none of that stuff really seems to be showing up here for Old World Blues. The one thing that I did find was Joshua Sawyer explaining, relaying a message, I think, from the concept artist, which members of the think tank correspond to which human people in like the graphic of the pre-war think tank that you see.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
So thank God one of them let me know.
Because that was what I was desperate
that would have
to
really
know.
gotten me. Yeah, that would have really, really gotten me. I would have been worried about that for a while. Thankfully, that clarification was made.
Yeah, like my enjoyment of the DLC locked together 100% now.
Yeah, so I was just looking here too, and I'm not quite sure. It looks like maybe this was an Avalone headed project again.
It does seem to be that. There's a lot of I think little Avalone touches here.
But yeah, so I also, similarly, you were talking about Point Lookout. I found this very similar to Point Lookout in that way. Although they, I guess the key difference is there you used a riverboat, and here you get teleported and they steal all of your organs.
Yeah. Yeah, not just your brain. Obsidian looks at what Bethesda was doing, and they're like, we can do this better, right? We're not just going to steal a part of your brain. We're going to steal the whole brain, and also your heart, and also your spine.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do with all of this. I think maybe, cards on the table at the very top. I'm not sure that I enjoyed this. And weirdly enough, I'm not in terms of design or in terms of like broadly what's going on. I think this is actually probably the best of the three that we've played so far, as far as like, maybe not, what am I trying to say here? The high concept, right? Like, because the first one we did, survival horror casino, that's the highest possible concept. High concept, very cool. Actual playing of it, not good for me, right? I don't enjoy it. For the second one, high concept, little pocket communities have to respond to invasions, and they're dealing with the, originary strain DNA from the Legion. Pretty cool. The actual playing of it, not cool. Not interesting to me. This one, high concept, science. It's the 20 teens in science.
Mm-hmm.
Let's science the shit out of this. Memes. Not interesting to me. As far from interesting as you could get, in fact. But the playing of it, pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think even like the small writing sections and like the way this kind of like mini open world all fits together, pretty cool, pretty good stuff. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think about it? And then maybe we can talk about what the shape of it actually is.
I have basically the exact same response as you, particularly in terms of how I think that, like, design-wise, I think this sort of does what it's trying to do, and it's interesting to play in that regard. I am probably softer than you on the humor, and that's maybe because I tend to appreciate like the historical value of this rather than just being tired of it.
Well, I mean, and you also, everyone knows you effing love science.
Yeah.
F yeah, science, Michael is often saying.
Yeah, there was a time in my life where people used to call me Science Michael. Because I was constantly coming up with different types of potions and unguents and whatnot that, when imbibed or applied to my skin, would cause me to fracture into different aspects of my personality. But those days are long behind me, and I don't do that sort of thing anymore.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting to hear. So, just can you do a little look around for me really quick on your desk here?
Yeah, sure.
You see any? Let's see here. Unguents, maybe?
Well, I have some something that looks like it might be coffee.
You got a potion?
Yeah.
Over there anywhere?
Yeah, the little coffee potion.
I want you to open up your desk drawer really quickly for me and check and see if you have any salves.
Okay. Oh, here's one.
Yeah, okay. Does it have a little cowboy hat on it?
No, it's got like a little 1950s atom diagram representation.
Oh, okay. All right,
Yeah.
We'll put that back.
Okay.
And so you're a little bit more willing to go down the science road here, in a broad sense.
Yeah, I mean, so to touch on what you were getting at about the like sort of the 20 teens memification of science. What strikes me about this is that, from my perspective, when what we used to say, kids, back in the days of like 2008 and 9, we actually talked about this a little bit on the Fallout 3 playthrough as well. We used to get on Facebook and we would post things like, "I fucking love science." And then we would say that after we said a whole bunch of facts about science, like, I don't know how big the sun is or something. And it starts out like very sincere, like this is sort of like a kind of like post Dawkins. We're going to take like scientific belief and maybe not focus so much on being an angry atheist. We're just going to talk about how much we love science. There's kind of this first initial sincere wave, and then
of like Neil deGrasse Tyson becomes famous during this time.
Yes, yeah, this is when deGrasse Tyson becomes kind of a household figure.
Mm-hmm.
People are following him on Twitter. They're like, "Hey, there's this thing called Twitter, and you can follow this scientist on it."
Mm-hmm. He's cool,
yeah,
and not weird.
He isn't constantly pointing out like bizarre flaws in movies.
Yeah, he hasn't become an insufferable person yet to the broad public.
So we start out with kind of this sincere science memification, and then Old World Blues comes out in kind of the moment where that's getting its second ironic wave, where you start getting people like, like, let's experiment beyond the boundaries of knowledge and ethics. I fucking love science. Which is, its own sort of irritating, but it's taking the I love science idea and then just like, slamming it into the ground repeatedly to where, you see science. This is the predecessor for Rick and Morty, right?
This is the same like ground. The frustration that we feel with Neil deGrasse Tyson you know, like as a figure in his like kind of like author function in the world of like ruining things.
Yeah.
The general affective response to that is Rick and Morty is the specific like creative response to that same general time period. Yeah. The thing here too, right? Something that's really interesting to me is that this feels like Old World Blues and the kind of characters that show up here. You know, there's all this kind of reference to B movies, 1950s Forbidden Planet style stuff, right? But the additional flavoring for it, right, it's coming out of this cultural milieu of you know, whatever, science is great, blah blah blah, fun memes. But it's like a very particular kind of Gen X response to it. Because it's this literally the characters here are, what if you smashed like hell yeah science memes into the scientists from 12 Monkeys? Because the main characters are like the main, you know, scientists we deal with. They're just the scientists from 12 Monkeys. Almost type for type, in fact.
Oh wow, is that true? Hold on.
Yes, the woman scientist who's like way too focused on like sexual reproduction, all of that stuff. That is 100% just from 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. I did not even think of 12 Monkeys during this, but yeah, no, that's the missing intertext here.
Yeah, and so there's this weird thing of like, you know, I don't know, it very, very much feeling of a very particular type of nerddom responding to a very particular moment in time. But yeah.
In theory.
Well, how do you feel about all these characters? Dr. Bing Bong and Boofus, whatever their names are.
I like them fine. So the other thing that I think is important here is that extremely wacky retro future Fallout is kind of my preferred Fallout. Like when Fallout pursues those elements in kind of its lore and its world building, that is when I am most pleased with it, because I think that's very funny. Like the think tank are this group of scientists who were called the think tank originally pre-war. And they were at this place called Big Mountain, a research facility somewhere outside of the Mojave proper. And they were doing all sorts of science things, right? It was basically, this was Black Mesa, if you know your first-person shooters. It's that type of research facility. There's all sorts of things going on, all sorts of facilities and everything. Then the bombs drop. A whole bunch of people die, and then through a kind of confusing implied series of events, the main scientists in charge of Big Mountain transfer their brains into special brain bots that allow them to continue to exist up until the present moment of Fallout New Vegas. And the design of them is something that I love very much because it's precisely the kind of like silly, like ray gun gothic retro future thing with the big, like the brain in the tank with 3 television monitors that are articulated so they can move around, and 2 of them show eyes and 1 of them shows a mouth. And like, this is how these characters express themselves, is through like movements of these monitors. So conceptually, I really like this. And then all of them are just wacky scientist types. Like you said, there's Dr. Dalla, who is sort of fixated on bodies and bodily stuff in a very, this is going to come up probably eventually in Homestuck. But I made friends with her. Because I was willing to like stand in front of her and just like breathe and stretch my arms, and this got her very titillated.
Yeah, she's like she keeps calling you teddy bear.
Yes, she thinks of bodies as like little dolls. So like these you wake up, you're like in this room, or actually you're out on the balcony, I think is where they drop you off, and you see this whole facility out in front of you. It's very weird. You go inside, there's this empty like barracks thing that you're in, and then you go into this other room and you see all the think tank members. I think there are 5 or 6 of them floating, and you have a long, I mean, if you're Nell, I guess this might have been shorter for Tonk. If you're Nell, you have a long conversation where you talk with all of them and have to piece together which ones are which based on how their dialogue is written, because of the way that the game engine's dialogue system works. It can't have all of the scientists talking to you at once, so it just has the first one, the leader, Dr. Klein. He comes up to you and the camera locks onto him, and then all of the other think tanks are like beaming through his speaker, so they're all like talking over each other, and it's very weird and confusing.
It's extremely confusing. And shockingly, I mean, maybe the conversation is not the same length, but yes, that opening conversation is 15 full minutes of just trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
Yes.
It is. Because I think you sent me a message before we played, and you were like, "Yeah, I spent a long time, like a full half hour, just talking to the first NPC."
It's more than that, Cameron. My first session of play for this was an hour and 20 minutes long, and it was all talking with these characters.
Shout them out for getting all those words in there, I guess.
Yeah. And that's I think one of the ways you can tell that this is an Avalone project is Avalone tends to have extremely wordy NPCs.
Yeah, and so much of it are these like, maybe this is my, less than the science, that kind of thing. My intolerance doesn't just come from that, although I'm not particularly fond of it, but it does come from like, I would say every third line you have with these characters is some form of pun or joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is this, like, glossolalia of trying to cram as many funny lines and, like, science references and, like, bits of characterization as you possibly can to these characters. Like, the one who is constantly talking about the jocks who beat him up when he was a kid.
Yes, Dr. Boris.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Boris!
Mm-hmm.
And then Dr. Venture, I never really figured out what his thing was. It's just Dr. Venture.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's straight up. It's just Dr. Venture, same voice actor and everything, and not doing a different voice at all. His name is, so they keep, he opens a lot of his sentences with O, like O as an interjection or whatever, and then he says whatever, and his name looks like it's Dr. O, but when you talk to him, it turns out that he is very irritated that everyone always calls him Dr. O because his name is actually Dr. Zero. He's also their robotics expert.
Yeah. I think I did figure that part out because it doesn't matter. We'll talk about it when we get there. And then there's like just a buzzing sound.
Yes.
And that's funny the first 2 times it happens and not funny the next 35 times.
Yes. Yeah, Dr. 8, whose like voice module is broken, so he only communicates in like buzzing and static.
And so there's the constant gag of like, and what was that, Dr. 8? Oh my gosh, really? I can't believe it. And then you just don't know what's being said. And like, that's funny when it's R2-D2, and it's not funny when it's a character who I both can't see in the dialogue, and it's not particularly interesting. But and that's it, right? That's the there's only 4 of the original.
Yes. And then there's their arch enemy. So you go in, you have this whole conversation with them and learn about them. And then someone comes over their like big screen, and it's their enemy, Dr. Mobius, who's also a think tank, but has like his like screens are all grimy, and one of his eye monitors is broken, and he makes a whole bunch of like incoherent threats, and everyone else is scared of him, and so they task you with going out and gathering technology to fight him.
Whoa, it's the ad break. Dead in the middle of the episode, probably, or somewhere close. Michael, do you know about Patreon?
Patreon? Is that a form of science?
Oh, God damn it. Yeah, I guess Patreon is a form of science.
Science!
Yep. You like, so let me, I'm looking at, hold on, I'm looking down my list here. Now, do you have a big hat on?
No, I'm wearing a stethoscope.
Okay, great. So you're science, Michael?
Yes.
Now, why would a scientist need a stethoscope? Wouldn't that be medical, Michael?
Sometimes you need to listen to your experiments.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I got you. You're a geneticist.
Yeah.
You're a geneticist science, Michael.
All
Okay,
of my
let me,
cazadores. I need to listen to their little heartbeats.
they have little hearts?
They have many little hearts dispersed throughout their bodies. That's how insects
Probably
work.
scare them. You can scare them like a what do you call it? Like a fainting goat.
Fainting cazador mod.
Mm-hmm. All right. Big on science, Michael.
Whoa.
Michael Prime, where do people go to support the show and see all the other things that we're up to?
You can go to patreon.com/rangetouch if you want to support us, and also get, the drip feed of content for all of the other things that we are doing on Patreon. If you give us $3 or more a month, you'll get access to Too Much Future, what you're listening to right now, but not as a YouTube series, as a podcast. So you can just listen to it on the go if you like. There's also various bonus episodes and other types of exciting bonus content that will be coming out in the future related to, Just King Things, our other show, but as well as the Homestuck show, where we're starting a kind of experimental live show thing that's going to be fun. That's cool. You can also get minute-to-minute updates by following us on Twitter, twitter.com/rangetouch. And that's where we will make sometimes jokes and also sometimes just like post links to things. So you can keep up with us that way. Is there anything else?
Well, just to smash that subscribe button if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe. You can get all these coming into your main feed. You can see when a new one comes out if you're into that. Hit that bell button too. I don't care if you want to do that. Probably they'll send you an email or something. I don't really know how it works. And hit that like button. Smash the like button because the only way to tell people about this show, right? We don't do any advertising. We don't do any... I do stand on the corner with a bullhorn every now and again, just yelling Too Much Future, but that really doesn't seem to move the numbers. Mm-hmm. And so the primary method of letting people know about this show is word of mouth. So if you enjoyed listening to this episode, if you enjoy listening to Too Much Future, why don't you make a tweet or a Facebook or an Instagram or a TikTok or anything like that? It just says, hey, I enjoy the show and I like it a lot and I'm cool and smart and everyone likes me. Just write that exact sentence. And then you hitting that like button and leaving a comment, that gets the algorithm churning. That gets there's one big, ironically enough, you would think that YouTube might have a bunch of hamster wheels, mm-hmm. To make the whole thing work. It's just one big one. And every time you post for the comment, the big hamster got to do. Assisted by 4 gerbils, and they they send the video out to all the biggest accounts. So if you enjoy the show, if you like listening to Too Much Future, if you think other people should check it out, hit that like button, leave a comment, even if it is just for the algorithm, because that actually does increase our listenership numbers every time it happens. Mm-hmm. So thanks so much for doing that, and we'll get back to the show. Michael, you want to take us back to the show? Cowboy Michael, I'm summoning you.
Okay.
Home on the range.
Howdy.
Tell us goodbye, Cowboy Michael.
What? Well, time to head back to the open range of the main episode of Too Much Future.
Yeah.
What, are you a ninja?
No, that was like I was like whipping a lasso around my head and like getting my horse.
I thought you were going to spring Ninja Cameron on Cowboy Michael.
Oh no, that would be bad.
Oh god, enjoy the episode, folks. Oh, by the way, they keep referring to you as like lobotomite because this is a thing that they do. They capture people from the wasteland and remove their brains and make them into people that you can shoot later. So
goblins.
Yes,
they
right.
Turn them into goblins.
Yep, they turn them into NPCs for you to fight, humanoid NPCs. And you are the one person they have lobotomized who has not totally lost their faculties. And they find this very distressing, but also, I guess, to some degree useful.
Yeah, and so there's this little bit of, even the way that we've described it might make this sound like it's kind of grounded in some kind of realism, but it is not. Like, it is full 1950s kind of wacky retro future like you were talking about. You know, they explain, oh, yeah, we lost your brain. Dr. Mobius has your brain because we flushed it down the tubes, and he loves brains. He loves brain. He loves them. So he's got your brain. Go get your brain. Like it feels like a thing that I would like make up while drunk. Like, you know, like to be like, oh yeah, he's I'm got to prep for D&D tomorrow. The wizard's got your brain, and it still works. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, because in the same way that like Sierra Madre, or Dead Money rather, it felt like, you know, the one-shot standalone adventure module. This is also that, but with far less of a plot and more emphasis on exploration, looting, and challenge dungeons.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it's a journey to. Or it actually kind of feels like someone sat down in a meeting. They were like, well, what if you don't want to help these robots? Like, what do? You just leave? And someone stood up in the back of the room and they were like, the bad guy has your brain.
And everybody clapped.
Everybody clapped. He put on his sunglasses and walked out of the room. He did that thing from, what's that? What's the IT Crowd was the name of that TV program with Richard Ayoade. And where the guy from the creator of Brass Eye just opens the window and walks directly out of it. Yes. All-time greatest joke, but it feels like that. That's what happened during the development meeting. They were like, solved. Everything is complete. Job is done. But so yeah, then you do that. You know, you kind of, and there's all these additional jokes too of like they don't really know why they need this science work. You know, these are the greatest minds of the pre-war time, and they are so like up their own science buttholes at this point that it's just like goofery for goofery's sake. And so you can go around to like a bunch of different little dungeons all around this big circular crater facility, and do a bunch of stuff. And there's 3 main ones you have to do before you can go attack Dr. Mobius. There is one where you got to fight a bunch of cyber dogs. There's one where you got to do some stealth suit testing. And there's one where you have to get an antenna. How did you do these by, I don't know. How'd you approach all this?
So after their kind of initial conversation, this is where everything gets really long for me, is like you can go around and talk to each individual member of the think tank, and like sort of learn a little bit more about them and kind of make friends with them and get some like little side quests. And like I am picking up and completing side quests just by talking to them, right? These conversations are in and of themselves quests. So I do a whole bunch of that, and then I head out. While I was doing that, I had to pop some Mentats because there were some intelligence checks, and this made me addicted to Mentats. The little place where you start out, the little like barracks area that I mentioned, this can become your base of operations while you're doing all of the stuff here in Big Mountain, or Big MT, because it's abbreviated. Mountain is abbreviated MT. So this is previously, when other characters have referred to the Big Empty, they have meant this place. And this is a thing.
Yeah. Sorry. It's pretty cool to like. This is a really good payoff, I think, for the DLCs, because we know that Elijah was his name,
yes,
from Dead Money. That Christine was her name, the Brotherhood of Steel woman who was in the auto dock. Christine was sent to kill Father Elijah, or they had a run-in. She was with another courier. They had a run-in with Father Elijah, who I believe she'd been sent to kill here in the Big MT. She doesn't know what happened to the other courier. She barely escaped the Big MT, and then Father Elijah got all of his like enslaving technology from here. So there's some nice kind of I don't know, just cool payoff there. And also I like the pun is good, or whatever the figure of speech there is, the homonym, I guess, of the big MG and the big MG. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like that touch for whatever reason. Like,
yeah, I think it works. I mean, sometimes, if you had to ask me like what are the best parts of Fallout, I think in a general sense at this point I could say it's when things drift in a way that feels very real for the 250, 300 years of the timeline. And so that's actually kind of why the retro future stuff doesn't work so much for me, is that it doesn't seem, for the most part, like the retro future was ever really there. It's only when it stands out in these like really kind of garish ways that it seems like it had any presence whatsoever. So it feels surreal in a way that things like Big MT don't. And I like this kind of grounded Fallout-y kind of thing, which is why I alluded to this in the last episode, but this is why I think we're going to have a really interesting experience in Fallout 4, which is almost half and half divided between sort of interesting, very grounded materialist kind of drifts and derivations, and then a full half of just bing bang goof 'em ups. And I'm very curious about how you're going to feel about that.
Well, we will see. So the thing that I was going toward, so we had the big MT. One of the things that I learned a whole bunch about Elijah and everything while talking to the think tank, because Elijah is the reason that Dr. 8's voice module got fried. They tried to capture Elijah, and Elijah hacked their systems and like turned a couple things against them. They had some rail cars that they used to transport things around the crater, and he like derailed one of them. And so Elijah did something when he hacked the systems that blew out the voice module for Dr. 8. And he also, I think, hacked Dr. 0 in some way. Anyway, so they mentioned that, and they also mentioned that he came specifically like looking for power, right? He was like there to scrounge up materials and technology. And then they mention, and this is Klein, I think, who mentions it, the other courier, who we've heard so much about up until this point. The other courier came, and he only wanted knowledge, and he had some sort of conversation with Dr. Klein. He asked a question and he got an answer, but Dr. Klein doesn't remember, because Dr. Klein assumes he programmed himself to forget the conversation because he didn't like the answer that came out of it. So more stuff for the future. During all this, I get addicted to Mentats because of intelligence checks. And I'm like, oh, crap, what do I do here? And then I remember that there is an auto dock in that little barracks area. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in the barracks area as well, but none of it works. And one of your like big sub-quests for this entire area, or this entire sort of DLC, is going out and finding like the AI modules for the various things that are in the little it's called the Sink. And it was
why is it called the Sink?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's a good name, but I don't know why it's called the Sink. I like how it sounds, but I'm not sure why it's called the Sink.
Time sink,
I guess. Yeah.
Doing all these subquests. Boom, boom, boom.
That might be literally true, right? It was apparently Dr. Mobius's like quarters before he turned against the others and left, and he like took out all the AI modules for whatever reason.
Oh, I wonder if it's a B-movie reference that I just don't have.
Maybe.
Too.
But there's an auto dock in there that could, in theory, cure my Mentat addiction. So I head out to a like a little side quest lab that has the AI module for the auto dock. And I learn a little bit about one of the projects that's going on, or was going on, in Big Mountain, which is the trauma harness, which was a type of... So the other thing that you need to know about...
Yes, this is so good, yes. By the way. This is, just to I know you're about to get to it, but to preview it, this is something that could show up in Control, and I would be like, oh yeah, of course.
So the other thing you need to know about Big Mountain is that when the war started in earnest, Big Mountain was very happy because they suddenly had all sorts of human test subjects for their experiments.
Yeah, the money hose and the subject hose just turned on for them. They loved it.
So all of the prisoners of war are being sent to Big Mountain to be experimented on to the degree that there is one of the little it's a concentration camp that they call Little Yangtze because it's where they're keeping all the Chinese prisoners of war.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Big Mountain is working with, the other thing actually to highlight here as like a thing that is being echoed or played with, especially in the video game space, is Portal.
Oh yeah. I didn't really think about that, but yeah, that definitely is in there.
Very much like because they all of the challenge dungeons that you go into are literally testing grounds, like they're experimental spaces, and they're constantly talking about the tests and like you need to complete the test in order to clear the dungeon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And the kind of sciencey meme thing, especially in the gamer space, emerges out of like the Portal ads and the kind of Portal in-game stuff you can read.
Yes, like I mean that's one of GLaDOS's like catchphrases is like we need to do this for science.
Yeah, the cake is true.
So I go to this like medical location and I get the AutoDoc AI, but then I learn about the trauma harness, which is this thing that they invented. It was like basically like a jumpsuit for the prisoners that would transport their bodies around without the prisoner's consent. And it was like a way of like, physically controlling them and controlling their movements. And what ends up happening is like the people who are in these suits die, but the suits keep going. So they're just like all these walking corpses, like trundling still to the very, very day, right? Trundling around Big Mountain. And you get to read all of the like, logs in the computer terminal about how, well, ideally, this would just like, we would be able to like send these people out like to do things for us and then like make the suits take them back. It's killing them, but like, this is a really easy method of corpse retrieval, it turns out.
Yeah, there's that, and like people, like scientists are wearing them too, because one of the little subquests is that there's a scientist who has it. That's the cerebral dog gun or whatever. That you can get. Yeah, the trauma suit concept is very, very good.
And they look cool too, because you see them walking around and it's like a skeleton in like a 1950s like idea of a spacesuit. It's very cool.
Yeah, looking. Like a big puffy suit, puffy red suit. Yeah, it's really good. So it sounds like you did all these little subquests.
No, not all of them, but I did a couple of them. And the reason that I bring it up is because all of the stuff, all of the AI routines that you can bring back to the sync, all have different personalities. So when the AutoDoc gets turned on, it's like a disinterested military medic. And it's just sort of like, yeah, what do you need? And it's like, I would like to employ your services. You also get sort of like the central intelligence unit that is it's basically a Mr. Handy style butler. It's like, oh, hello, how are you doing? Can I do anything for? And it's also your merchant and stuff, but it also consistently refers to you as sir. And because Lucky Nell is not a sir, she can ask about this, and then it's just like, I wasn't programmed to be able to address anyone as anything else. I'm sorry, sir. And so it says sir at the end of every sentence.
Yeah, it should have been a Grady from The Shining. Wouldn't that have been good?
It would have been really good.
Well, so what? I assume you did the mainline side quests, the things you have to do, the required content. I'm assuming you kind of did that in order. So you went and got that antenna.
Yep.
Not too complicated. Nothing particularly interesting there.
Nope. When you get it, Mobius comes over your radio or whatever and hollers at you, and some of the other Think Tank people holler at you, and then Mobius sends out his dreaded Robo Scorpions.
This could be like the most hokey bad part of it. And I actually like the Robo Scorpions. I think they're cool.
Yeah. Why do you like them?
I think they look cool.
they do.
They shoot big blue lasers out of their tail.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's just cool looking.
And the think tank is under the impression that that getting stung by them drains your intelligence.
Oh,
so they are
no, I did.
One of the reasons they do not leave their little lab is because they are scared to death that the Robo Scorpions will sting them and drain their intelligence.
Did you know that the antenna is a melee weapon?
I did know that. I noticed that. I thought you might have some fun.
Massive. It is massive. It is the size of a human being. And I used it repeatedly. And of course, but it's something to do with the way that scorpions just work in the game. I don't quite know what's up. But, I have the thing where if I hit something with a melee attack and it crits, they ragdoll.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens for scorpions very often. And so there's a lot of footage of me running around with a massive antenna, just whacking scorpions with it and watching them like roll around on the ground. They also explode when they die, like other robots. And that's pretty brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Other cool melee weapons that are here too is there's a like a proton axe that does more damage to robots, and that was pretty cool to use.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurts real bad when you get hit with it. You also get a gun, a sonic emitter at the beginning of this stuff, which I didn't bother using, even though it probably would have some cool effects. Did you end up using that?
Yeah, I had to use this a lot because one of the things about my playstyle and about the build that Lucky Nell is she uses regular guns, which are not particularly effective against robots. Energy weapons tend to be more effective against robot enemies. And so I had some tough, not like super hard combat situations. I would say like tedious combat situations where I have to choose between using my regular gun and just plinking away, or using this sonic emitter, which is an energy weapon that you're given specifically because it's particularly effective against roboticized enemies. But I have no skill points in energy weapons, so I'm also just plinking away. And also the initial sonic emitter is pretty weak. You can do some side quests to like upgrade it. And I didn't do any of these because, and this is one of the ways in which, like this specific chunk of DLC, I think, suffers for our format. That's just not how I'm playing this game. I can imagine like getting this as a DLC sort of like in its cultural moment, in its historical moment, and being like, okay, and I'm going to spend the next like week or week and a half, slowly working through all this content. But here it was like, I have to record some commentary on this, so I need to figure out how this thing works and then play as much of it as I can while still doing everything else that I do. So I didn't upgrade the sonic emitter. I did get the dog gun, however. Did you encounter this?
No, I didn't. The one additional thing I want to say about that is that I don't think I would do that even in its moment of release. Like, like doing all these like little time sinky pieces, I probably would have gone into more of the little dungeons, but our format is not constraining me in that regard, right? Like I could have sat down and done more of this stuff. But the idea of getting a gun, which I wouldn't use to begin with, and then upgrading that gun to do other things that I don't need to do with it is just an incentive structure that is so far away from my character build that I wouldn't bother, and maybe if I made a different character somewhere along the line, I might do that. But it's an interesting kind of thing of, it is an incentive for a thing if you're already doing it, and if you're not doing that, then there seems to be kind of no point to it, and that's unfortunate, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like the gun part of it doesn't matter too much, but just on a gloss read of it, I was like, all right, making a better gun, that a gun that has different interesting effects. No, thank you, I'm good. But no, I didn't go get the dog gun, even though I read all about it, or I read all about it in game. What does it fire dogs?
No, and
dang.
Weirdly enough, I didn't even have to go get it. Like I also read the stuff that I assume you read, but the think tank gave it to me. I needled them about like needing a weapon, and they gave me the sonic emitter, and I was like, this is an energy weapon. That's not what my character build is. Like, that's not what the dialogue is, right? But you can say like, do you have something that's like more analog? And then they give you the dog gun, which is also not something that I'm particularly good with, because I think it's a bigger gun. And no, I think they conflate those anyway. It was fine in terms of it's good to just like, it's sort of like a some sort of like assault rifle, and it has the conceit behind it is that it is built out of the cyber dogs, so it has a dog's brain in it, and it's just otherwise it's just like an assault rifle that has a dog's brain. So when you're shooting,
I thought it fired dogs.
One would think, one would hope, but instead it just like barks and stuff. And then whenever you like unequip it, it like whimpers sadly.
A real Borderlands is what you're telling me.
Yep.
That might be the other like kind of missing intertext here is Borderlands.
Mm-hmm.
But that's unfortunate. I thought maybe you could like shoot something that would like teleport a dog into existence. That would be cool.
That would be cool if oh my god, if they just gave you a gun that like zapped in cyber dogs.
Yeah, I can imagine how it would work, right? Like it's just a grenade. If the grenade connects, then it summons a dog, and it has an extremely long reload time. The end.
Yeah.
Got it. There you go. Bing, bang, boom. You can have that for Fallout 5. Bethesda Studios. So you went into the stealth thing?
Yeah, the stealth thing. You have to assemble a set of like stealth armor, and there's also a bunch of night stalkers in here. By the way, the Big Mountain is where you discover Dr. Boros created both night stalkers and cazadors.
Yeah, what a guy, huh?
And he keeps talking about how cute they are. And he also insists that all of them are contained. Like, you can talk to him about how, like, no, man, these things are like all over the world now. And he's like, no, they're not. They're safely locked up. So yeah, you assemble the stealth suit and fight a bunch of night stalkers. You also have to go to Dr. Boros's like weird high school simulation to get some other piece of technology that I don't remember. It's the antenna, the suit, and then
a schematic, maybe? I mean, they're all schematics, I guess. I don't remember what the third one is.
Yeah, maybe that's the one where you get the energy weapon gun. I don't know.
Yeah, the mission structure is you have to go into his like simulated set of environments that he's made and root out communism.
Yes.
Or act as a communist infiltrator to determine if his like mutant dogs can, if they work or not, essentially.
Yes, no, that's kind of the thing, and it's, you know, some normal sort of Fallout stuff where this guy is like constantly recreating, like all of the characters in his high school simulation are like people who obviously actually like bullied him in high school. And you find all sorts of things about that. There's a lot of the humor here with this character in particular is like the commie menace, sort of like Red Scare parody. Because I have the Wild Wasteland trait or whatever, I got a really fun scene in here where I looked into like an observation room and I saw a bunch of cyber dogs playing poker.
There's another observation room where they're just like watching a woman call them a good boy.
I think it's probably the same room. I think with the Wild Wasteland trait, it turns into the room where they're all sitting around a table and they all have like poker hands.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting you have Wild Wasteland, and that changes some stuff. Yeah, it's fun. I thought this was like a perfectly fun little zone that was there. And so you collect all of that stuff, all these different items, and you go back to them, and they're like, all right, well, if you want your brain, you're going to go talk to Dr. Mobius. Got to go kill him.
Oh, I forgot something.
Oh, sure, yeah.
With Dr. Boros, the other thing that he mentions is that he had a dog named Gabe, a real dog, I guess, and you can like look into his past more, and it sends you to a little like bunker warehouse kind of area out into the southeast of the map. And this is where all of the scientists lived in the pre-war times. And it's just the Tranquility Lane model, like layout map.
Yeah.
From Fallout 3 with all of the like the houses around the little center. And you can go into all the houses and figure out, this is where this scientist, like, here's the house that's full of teddy bears. It's the one where Dala lived. And then you go into the backyard of the house where Dr. Boris lived, where there's a doghouse. And normally you find the doghouse and it just has like Gabe's name on it. You can find like his feeding dish or something. But because I had Wild Wasteland on, I come walking back there and the letters spelling Gabe have been knocked down. And there's a new set of letters that just says Stripe. And then a tiny Deathclaw comes out of the house, the little doghouse, and it just comes like walking toward me. And Cameron, this Deathclaw may be tiny, but it is just as strong as a normal sized Deathclaw. So it just like whacks me twice and kills me. And then I kill it, and it's like a Gremlins reference. Like,
yeah, invented some sort of gremlin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that Tranquility Lane was very cool. I thought there was something really interesting here that, like, this is what scientists, how they live. Because I also went in this area and wasn't quite sure what it was, but that makes a lot of sense that it's where they lived.
So yeah, I killed Stripe and then took Gabe's dish and tried to show it to Dr. Boris, and he's like, I don't recognize what this is. And then I had to do the whole like Cyberdog stealth thing, and then at the end of that, you find Gabe, who is still alive. He's a Cyberdog, and rather than being, like we saw earlier, a Deathclaw made really tiny, Gabe is a Cyberdog made really big. So you kill him and then get something, and then you can like reminisce with Dr. Boris about how he did not treat his dog well because he was just constantly feeding it chems and like operating on its brain. But yeah, then they send you off to fight Dr. Mobius, and you fight a whole bunch of Robo-Scorpions, and then you get into Dr. Mobius's Forbidden Zone, and you fight a really big Robo-Scorpion.
Yeah, I would simply not go into Dr. Mobius's Forbidden Zone. That would be my solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fight this big Robo-Scorpion, which I had a hard time with. I didn't realize, just because, look, this is like a Fallout game, and so I'm just really not thinking on this level, but it can defend itself. And so I got it to half health and then quick saved and had a really hard time getting it all the way down. But I threw like 11 plasma grenades at it. And then eventually when it was down to like 2 pips of health, I ran forward with a fire axe and just clonked it in the head a bunch of times. And it died. Yeah,
it has the same like laser tail as the mini Robo-Scorpions, except when it hits you, it like it's like a nuclear blast. Like your rads just like shoot up to the point where you will automatically die. So I had quite a time with this. One of the things that's interesting about the sonic emitter is that if you fully upgrade it, you'll see around the Big Empty all of these like blue force fields that are like blocking doors and stuff. And if you fully upgrade your sonic emitter, you can fire at those and it disables the force fields. So there are like little rooms in the Scorpion battle chamber that you can get into if you have the fully upgraded sonic emitter, and presumably you can like do something with the terminals in there that'll help make this battle easier. But I don't upgrade the sonic emitter, so the only terminals I can get to are ones that activate a set of like 4 protectrons over at the side of the room. And I let those go, and they distract the giant Robo-Scorpion while I just walk around behind the Scorpion and take out, once again, my sonic emitter, because it's the only thing that I have that is really like effective against robots. And I just plink away at its health for like a full 5 minutes. And eventually I kill it that way.
Bing, 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 bing.
Yep. Not a extremely fun battle, really.
No. But you get a great reward afterward, which is talking to Dr. Morbius. Or Dr. Mobius. It's Morbius in Forbidden Planet,
yes,
right?
Yes. In Forbidden Planet, which is what is being referenced, it is Dr. Morbius, but here they have changed it to Mobius.
Mobius, yeah. But you get to talk to him, and he's pretty cool. I actually like this guy a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's a good payoff for this whole thing.
Mhm.
Because you find out that basically, so, everyone before the war who was working at Big Mountain, everyone was addicted to chems.
Mhm.
Like, and that's very clear if you just walk around because there's Mentats everywhere.
Yes.
So everyone is just like using Mentats constantly to boost their intelligence, and science is going wild. It's like a real problem.
Mhm.
And he's just like someone who did way too much Mentats and continues to do way too much Psycho. And he's just like, oh, hey, what's up? And he's like really kind of brain exploded. And you can be like, why do you keep sending all these threatening messages? And he's like, I think I recorded those when I was high on Psycho. Like, I'm pretty sure. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, but that sounds like something I would do when I was on a drug that makes you believe that you're more powerful than you really are. And so, yeah, he's just like, this old robot. And he's like, yeah, I have your brain. It's over there. It's having a good time. I don't know why you're here to mess with it, but you can go talk to it if you want to. I repaired his eyeball for him
Oh, that's nice.
because I have a very high repair skill.
Mhm.
My barter skill actually allowed me to convince all of the scientists to give me like 1,000 caps. Because they open up like a trade station for you, in the sink.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think I have enough money for that. And they're like, all right, well, here's some money. And then I could just, based on my barter skill, could keep going up and up. And eventually they gave me a bunch of skill magazines, which, like, I don't know why I would need those at this point in the game, but it was an option.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. How'd you feel about Mobius and your brain?
Mobius is interesting. So, like, the story that I get from Mobius, I talk to him a lot, and he's very scattered, of course. But the big story behind everything at Big Mountain, it turns out, is that when when the think tank transferred their brains into the think tank, uh, something about the ways that these like armatures operate, like they call it like the recursion loops or whatever through their sensoria, slowly began to like erode their personalities. So everyone was a Kim addicted asshole before. Like it is also clear that like everyone at Big Mountain was like, there's like, yeah, human experiments, that's great, fantastic, let's do more of that. But it has gotten even worse. And Mobius was kind of the last one. He was the one who kind of kept in touch with his prior self sort of the longest. And he realized that if the think tank were capable of getting out of Big Mountain, basically they would do the things they had already been doing forever, except now even more unhindered by like human emotion and human embodiment, and it would be a very bad scene for everyone outside of Big Mountain. So he scrambled, he like hacked them all, scrambled everything so that they lost touch with their former personalities. All of the names that they give you are not their original names, right? He gave them sort of like all new names and stuff, and sort of deleted their memories of things outside of Big Mountain, such that they basically like they think that there is nothing outside of, or they did think there was nothing outside of Big Mountain up until Father Elijah and that other courier showed up and ruined everything by reminding them that there was an outside world. The other thing that is happening is, or the other thing that Mobius did is he built like this, bullshit plot device, energy barrier around Big Mountain. That means if you're just a brain in a jar, you can't go outside. But the think tank, the important reason that they wanted you in your brain, it turns out, is because you were the first successful, like they're scooping out people's brains left and right, obviously making lobotomites, but something about the way that they were capable of extracting your brain underlined like a fault in the process that they were then able to correct, such that they can now, in theory, put their brains in other bodies, and then they can leave Big Mountain. And Mobius does not want that. Also, the reason that your brain is special in this way is because you got shot at the beginning of the game. Okay, sure. Yep. It's
I did not put that together, by the way.
oh, it's not even, it's like it's a thing that's specifically told to you for me.
Oh, well, I got all the other stuff. I did not get that.
Oh,
but
interesting.
Maybe I just missed it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's another interesting, like, Chris Avallone thing. It's like, oh, is your player character a wound in the reality of the game itself? Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Whoopsie daisy, I'm a wound in reality again.
That just keeps happening.
A little baby fell down, wound in reality.
So
Beep boo boo.
So Mobius, sort of obliquely explains all this to you, because since he did all of these things and like scrambled everyone else's kind of thought processes, he has also just, lost it and gone insane. And so that's why he has all of these pre-recorded messages that keep beaming out. And this is also why he invented the Robo-Scorpions and then tricked the think tank into thinking that they drain intelligence, because this was all kind of part of his plan to like set up fail-safes to keep the think tank in their laboratory and keep them from venturing outside of Big Mountain. So then you can go over and talk to your brain, and your brain sounds like Stewie Griffin from Family Guy.
Oh, it does.
Like it's got that kind of like attitude to it. Which, I mean, as I don't know if it's an intentional reference or anything. It's whatever. I do like the idea that like just you, like the player character, have a brain that is in personality totally the opposite of anything you could really do in the actual game. Like your brain is just basically a different person.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like the someone. Okay, look, I'm often handing out free seminar papers to people on range touch programs, but I would love to read someone. So if you write this, send it to me. I want to read it. Love to read someone going deep on what New Vegas's Old World Blues' theory of the mind and body, because it's a weird one.
Mm-hmm. And you have like the reason you can continue to do things is because they put like an artificial brain in your head. The thing that I think is interesting.
No, they put a Tesla coil in your head.
Yes,
and they make sure that you know that, because Nikola Tesla was also part of like the joke economy of the 2010s for some reason.
Yeah, the science joke economy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I think is interesting about this whole brain thing, right, is that you talk to the brain, and it's like, why on earth would I want to be with you? You're constantly making these horrible decisions and getting us into trouble, and we're always almost dying, so on and so forth. And there's an interesting, like, I think, wedge here, where there's some sense in which the player character is, or you, the player, are distinct from the brain of the character that you're playing.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
The once you remove the brain from the body, it gets to become its own independent entity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like, and that's the weird thing, is that your brain is replaced with Tesla coils, so your brain is I guess like telepathically, I don't have a better word for it. It's beaming ideas into your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Of like how to move your body, and yet it has its entire own like consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thorny knot.
Yes. But you can talk with your brain a whole bunch about various things, and it's very dismissive of you. But your choice is basically this. Are you going to try to get your brain back? Or are you going to let your brain stay with Dr. Mobius and continue to do whatever, like its own research? Like your brain has just basically joined the think tank.
Your brain also says that the only reason you make bad decisions that are not solely rational and good is because you are is because of glands.
Mm-hmm.
It's like glands are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you punch a death claw? It is because of glands.
This is also a thing that the think tank says a lot, talking about like hormones. You're being hormonal.
I got a very funny glitch here.
Oh yeah?
Yes. So at one point of dialogue, you can say, well, think about all the good times we had together, brain. Like, come be my buddy. Get back in my head, brain. And so it was like, oh, yes, I do remember that. When Jason Bright flew up into the sky with his followers. And when we took back Helios 1. And when Jason Bright flew off into the sky with his followers. And when we took back Helios 1, and when Jason Bright flew off into the sky with his followers, and when we took back Helios 1, and when Jason Bright, so I was like, oh yeah, this is a funny bit, right?
Yes.
Not a bit, it just kept going. And I had to turn the game off and turn it back on.
That's very good. I don't even think I pursued that line of dialogue, but I don't remember my brain even like saying anything about what we'd done.
Maybe you didn't have a good time.
Maybe. But I did get my brain back.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
I put it back in my brain.
Mm-hmm. And then also the other thing to underscore here is that you could have killed Mobius at any time. Again, if you're like being a mean or evil character. But I did not do that. I sort of convinced Mobius that I would be able to see all this through peacefully. And then I travel back to the big mountain proper, and I talk with the think tank. And suddenly they're all aware of the fact that they can put their brains in my body and leave, I guess. But I scare them into staying in Big Mountain. The other option here, of course, right, is to just kill them all, because that's the thing. You can tell Mobius, it's like, okay, I'm going to go kill all the others now. But I said that I was Mobius, that Mobius and I had like joined consciousnesses or whatever, or that like Mobius had put his brain in my body and now I had come back to destroy them all. And they all got very scared. And then I was like, but I'm not going to do that. We're just going to, like, you can continue to do all of your stuff as long as you never leave this laboratory. And they're like, okay, that sounds good. And that's the end.
I murdered every single one of these scientists. I killed them all with a fire axe. Just straight up, one by one. They cannot defend themselves.
Oh, boy.
I used some spin moves. I got him. I hate him. Dr. Mobius should live here by himself forever, doing whatever he wants. Killed them all and left. The final, because all these DLC have a credits crawl, that tells a little story like the end of the game. Anything notable stand out here for you?
Not especially, other than a lot of like, so, they give you the little character updates usually. And here, because there are so few characters, it updates you on like your progress in terms of like how many, like all of the challenge dungeons that you go to show up in the credits crawl, because they're all implied to be like AI routines that continued on after you left and continued on certain tracks depending on what you did. So for instance, like the Cyberdog stealth thing, I left it on some sort of state where it just kept making more and more Cyberdogs to the point that you can allegedly hear like Cyberdogs howling across the Mojave now. And the stealth one, like the stealth routine, like also like because I had stolen the things that it was supposed to protect, so instead of like building more elaborate stealth scenarios inside of itself, it started building them outward. And then I also got an update about the various AIs that I installed in the sink and like how they were getting along with each other.
Yeah, I really like the stealth one. That one is X13 because it specifically said for me, because it never found the stealth suit. It just kept looking for it, and the only way to keep looking for the stealth suit was to expand. And I thought that was really good. Since I killed everyone, the courier became the guardian of the Big Empty, and ended up like caring for it and creating his own little fiefdom, Tonk's fiefdom, Tonk's techno fiefdom. Finally, there will be someone for peasants to look up to, their feudal lord in the wasteland. So kind of a weird turn for Tonk. I don't know if that would have happened normally, but that's what the game told me happened. And similarly, got all these kind of little character beats, but. Did you get all this weird stuff at the end about like interpreting the phrase "old world blues"?
Yeah, I did also get that. It's like, hey, we should probably explain why the title of this is what it is.
So, key question for you here: Has anyone said the phrase old world blues ever in this video game?
No, not that I found.
Because this ending crawl treats it like, oh yeah, everyone's out here all the time saying old world blues. You know, they got the general over there who's got the old world blues. You know, it's acting as if this is like the Budweiser was right? Like everyone in the wasteland's just saying it all the time. And so there's this elaborate, like, you know, like people use the word old world blues before to talk about nostalgia, but now they use it to talk about the possibilities of the future. Now it's the old world blue skies, you know, essentially is the argument being said here. Now they talk about, quote, and this is the actual phrase, new world hope, and like, you know, big quotation marks there, buddies, on that new world you got. Yeah, I thought that was extremely weird. And then I got a big defense of science and how cool science is.
Yeah. Well, with the courier at the helm, science became a beacon for the future. It's like,
yeah,
and
it's like science was not all of its worst parts. It could be harnessed for good too. And literally, we just came from a giant place in which unfettered science, funded by the military-industrial complex, had a literal concentration camp on site to supply, bodies for the thing. It's awful. If there's one thing we have learned from this is that whatever form of scientific discovery was going on for, I don't know, 50 solid years in the Fallout universe, we shouldn't do that again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that we have to both sides science here at the end to be like, in case you were just thinking that, like, everyone here hates science, actually, we think science could be good sometimes. And it's like, who is being served by this? Why do we need to come out and say this?
Yeah, I mean, the real world analogy that's being drawn here is don't let the Nazis ruin science for you, kids. Science has got good parts too. We invented Velcro also, and it's like, I don't think you don't have to do this, right? Like, you don't have to defend science in the abstract here. You could just condemn bad things,
right? Like we could say, like, maybe science that invents Velcro is maybe better than the science that requires concentration camps.
Yeah, that maybe we can just condemn, like, genetic manipulation, science being performed on people against their will. It's not all in one big bucket. And you're like, I spilled too much science and something bad happened. That's not how it works. Yeah. So I thought that ending crawl thing was particularly odd in its big umbrella thoughts about science. But unless you have anything else to say, Michael, that is the end of the Old World Blues. I think I still got them a little bit, just to be honest with you. And in the next episode, we're going to be doing the final DLC.
Yeah, it's time to walk that lonesome road, as the end of this DLC also tells us.
Oh, and by the way, everyone told me I was wrong about anyone caring about Honest Hearts, despite the fact that Honest Hearts is the only one of these I've ever heard about that anyone say anything of, and that Old World Blues is the one that everyone loves. And let me tell you, I don't see it. Certainly more fun to play, but it's like, conceptually, I don't think any better or worse than the other ones we've played. So you haven't played this final DLC, right?
No. I haven't played, again, any of these DLCs up until this point.
So I haven't played it either, but we keep hearing about this damnable other courier, and I have to assume he's going to show up here. Or they. I don't actually know the gender here.
Yeah. So even though I haven't played it, of course, I've read all the lore wikis. You would be correct. We're going to meet this dang courier.
Did we hear about the courier? And I didn't hear about the courier in this DLC, but did you get any info about him?
I didn't get any extra information about the courier other than what I already told you, which is that it is a he, I believe. He is mentioned as being a he. Came to Big Mountain, wanted to talk with the think tank, asked questions that not only made, like, Dr. Klein of the think tank uneasy to the point that he, like, apparently deleted his own memory, but Mobius mentions it as well. And Mobius was similarly like, he came around and he asked some questions, and I do not like the questions he was asking.
Spooky.
Yep.
All All right, cool. Well, we will be back in 2 weeks to talk about that. Thanks so much for checking out the episode. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and smash that like. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with the final DLC, Lonesome Road.
War never changes, but Fallout New Vegas finally ends.